Good morning, my dear students. Today's topic of discussion is diuretics. Diuretics are drugs which cause a rate in the increase of urine. That is the proper definition of diuretics. But these are the drugs also which cause a net loss of sodium and water in urine. So these characteristic of diuretics by which it's uh, helping in the loss of sodium is called its natriuretic property. If it is helping in the uh, excretion or loss of uh, sodium and chlorine both, then it is going to be called saltiuretic property. If it is helping in the excretion of more potassium, then it is called caloritic property. Now, these diuretics are basically of different types. So, on the basis of different colors, different sites are being located where this is basically a structure of a nephron where you can see the different colors, and with the help of different colors the sites are being located where different diuretics are acting. So, I'm starting with this part of proximal convoluted tubule where you will see at this cortical part, at this part, the drugs which are predominantly acting are carbonic anhydrase inhibitors. Out of that, one example is acetazolamide. You have heard this term in context of glaucoma. Then comes the part just below that, that is the descending limb of Henle, and a little bit of part of ascending limb, but which is located at the part of medulla. So this blue part, a part of this blue part, this tubule, as well as this descending loop of Henle in the medullary part, is being affected by a drug called mannitol, which is belonging to osmotic diuretic. So from here onwards, you will see the cortical part of the ascending loop of Henle, and this entire part where there is a particular enzyme located sodium potassium to chlorine channel, and that is being affected by the group of drugs called loop diuretics, and these drugs are also known as high ceiling diuretics. Why are they called high ceiling? They're called high ceiling because the more you increase the dose of the drug, the more its efficacy is going to be increased. So the efficacy you are going to get at the 10 milligram of diuretic like furosemide, which is a loop diuretic, you will get more with 20, it will increase with 40, and if you further increase it up to even 1000 milligram, which can be prescribed in case of chronic renal failure, you will see that its efficacy is increasing. So it's not touching the ceiling, rather it is gradually increasing. So that is the reason why this type of drugs are called high ceiling diuretics. At the distal convoluted tubule, at this part there is a sodium chlorine cotransport channel, and here you will see a drug which is acting as a diuretic, and which is very effective in primary hypertension or essential hypertension, and the name of the drug is thiazide. A thiazide group of drugs are hydrochlorothiazides, the benchthiazide, the hydroflumethazides. So these are all thiazide group of diuretics, and there are some thiazide like diuretics which are also acting here. They are having action like the thiazide, but themselves they are not thiazide, rather they are in most of the terms they are better than thiazide in relation to hypertension or in different disease process. So those drugs are chlorthalidone, metolazone, then the indapamide, zepamide, and clopamide. So all these are thiazide like diuretics, and this green color is showing that this is the site of action of this thiazide group of diuretics. Now we'll come to the gray zone. This part is the cortical, uh, what should I say, it's a collecting tubule, and this part is the action of potassium sparing diuretic. Out of that you can divide it into two groups. One is called aldosterone antagonist, which will block the action of aldosterone, and such drugs are spironolactone and eplerenone. So they are aldosterone antagonist, whereas the other are basically blocking sodium chlorine co-transport in this distal channel, and therefore they are preventing the secretion of potassium, and hence they are retaining potassium in your body. And those drugs are amiloride and triamterene, and they are basically renal epithelial sodium channel inhibitor, whereas the other potassium sparing diuretic, other potassium channel diuretic is spironolactone and eplerenone. The mechanism is absolutely different. It is basically an aldosterone antagonist, or they are in that sense, because spironolactone, eplerenone, these are two different names. So these two are basically aldosterone antagonist. There are few other drugs like the drug like the theophylline group of drug, which are belonging to methylxanthine. Commonly they are prescribed in bronchial asthma, and so these drugs are also having little bit of diuretic property. Beside this, digoxin sometimes show a little bit of diuretic property, but classically they are not placing under the classification of diuretic drugs. Now, natriuretic potency, by which we are trying to define the potency of different diuretics, and natriuretic potency is the amount of drug, or rather the amount of sodium which is being excreted in the 24 hours divided by the amount of sodium which is being filtered in the 24 hours into 100, and it is coming around 0.6. It is normal potency is around 0.6. In case of high ceiling diuretic, which are acting here, this value is around 40, 50, more than 10, whereas in case of moderate ceiling, it means that if you give 10 or 12.5 milligram or 6.25 milligram or 6 milligram of the diuretic, you will see that will get very good effect. You can increase up to 25 milligram, you will still get better effect, but if you increase it up to 50 milligram of hydrochlorothiazide, you will not get any further beneficial effect. That is called moderate ceiling. Only the adverse drug reaction will increase, and that is the reason why they are called this kind of drug, that means moderate ceiling diuretic. And mostly the potassium sparing diuretics are low ceiling diuretics. So these are drugs. Again, I am repeating the drugs, the osmotic agents like mannitol, and its site of action is just repeating the proximal tubule, the descending limb, and the collecting duct. So it is the main action is here, but it will be effective in rest of the other parts. In case of carbonic anhydrase inhibitors like acetazolamide, it is effective in proximal tubule. In the thiazide, examples are hydrochlorothiazide, and there are some thiazide like diuretic like indapamide, chlorthalidone. Those are effective in distal convoluted tubules. There are drugs like loop diuretics, where I am specifying on furosemide and torsemide. These two are the more important ones. Torsemide is more potent in comparison to furosemide. We will discuss it later. This ethacrynic acid is obsolete nowadays because of its ototoxicity. It means it will cause a little bit of problem in the ear. So that's the reason why ethacrynic acid is not used nowadays. And its site of action is ascending loop of Henle, and that is sodium potassium 2 chlorine channel. And ultimately the potassium sparing diuretics like amiloride triamterene, which are acting on the collecting tubule, mostly their site of action is this. That means they are acting on the sodium channel. Basically they are the sodium channel inhibitors, or in other sense you can say they are renal epithelial sodium channel inhibitors. So with this I am concluding my first presentation on diuretics. Thank you so much.